The claim that I'm being responded to is the lack of affordable housing is helping inner city property grow. The secondary claims are repeated housing displacement is associated with family destabilization and insecurity. Second, theories of metropolitan development in the United States explain that higher status populations tend to occupy newer houses while lower status groups tend to be restricted to older housing. Third, the lack of affordable housing is creating concentrating poverty. My response to the claim is that the claim states precisely in inner cities. Inner city meaning usually the poor central, so it's saying that the poor people are going to be even more poor, as well as it's not specifying a region. It's saying throughout the whole United States, when in actual, as we see throughout the facts, he specifies sometimes in Southern California or California. My response to the first claim, repeating housing displacement is associated with family destabilization and insecurity. So what does actually affordable housing have to do with stabilization and insecurity? Insecurity of what? As in insecurity of jobs, insecurity of our own selves to get a home. There has to be more explanation in that. As we see through the evidence that he used in this secondary claim, we see that considered to inner city living, but not only one source was used for the claim, so not much information was used to support the claim. And then the second claim was theories of metropolitan development in the United States explain that higher status populations tend to occupy newer housing while lower status groups tend to be restricted to older housing. What does metropolitan have to do with inner city? Metropolitan means a geographical region with a relatively high population. It does not mean the inner city. It does not mean poor. It does not mean the poverty. So I don't see how that relates to any inner city, and I don't see how that relates back to the main claim. And once again, for this claim, there's only one source used for all three quotes. My counterclaim is that there's some sort of contradiction because inner city consists inner city consists of poor people, so that means that there will be no higher status populations that will occupy new housing. The poor people will have the opportunity to, among themselves, to have the new housing. The response to the third claim, lack of affordable housing is creating concentrated poverty. This claim is almost the same as the main claim. There should be a slightly different, it's the same thing as the first claim, which as the main claim, which is the lack of affordable housing. Maybe they changed it a little bit. So in conclusion, the claim is not well supported, and there should have been a bit more evidence, because although in the word cited there was many different references that this peer of mine stated, but only 3 of them were used, and I went through all of them, and they were pretty much not really related with inner city. They were more about affordable housing in general in the state of the United States.
All right, the main claims labeled, the secondary issues were outlined. You're having a little bit of trouble with the word a couple of times, and so it's just one of those things you might want to work on because it enhanced the credibility there. It comes up a couple of places in the speech, and it just is something that you need some practice on. On your first claim, it sounds like you're basically saying that the advocate is begging the question. They're saying, you know, poor places are poor. And I think that that's the claim that you're making there, and it needs to be a little bit clearer than that. Then you've got a whole series of questions that you use to press on the point, but I'm not sure what the impact of all those questions in the long run is going to be. When you get to point number 2, you do an okay job, again, suggesting that there's a problem with the relationship between the evidence that the advocate's using and the claim that they're making. I think your explanation there wasn't as clear as it should be. In fact, it wasn't until the last sentence in your speech that the whole point of your analysis on their reasoning was clear, and that is, you know, that they're talking, all of the evidence that the advocate used speaks about housing in general as opposed to being distinct or specific to inner cities. And that, I think, is a good point. In essence, the generalization that the advocate is using is it's not particular to the subject that the claim is about, and so they're violating one of the basic tenets of deductive reasoning that we talked about. The rest of your argument on the second point was a little bit unclear. On the third point, it sounds more like you're doing an evaluation rather than a criticism of the argument. I think if you could have clarified that end statement a little bit more at the beginning, the rest of your argument would pop out a little bit more in how it applies to the advocate's points. All right, thank you.